Hi guys, I'm not sure how good this video is going to be. I've realised I've got a light behind me, so that might make it worse. I've just come back from the doctors and my blood sugar levels, just to remind you, my HbA1c test, which is underlying blood sugar levels, there was 65 in October, which is terrible, terrible, terrible. By March, 5 months later, they'd gone down to 49, which is not at all bad. And today, I've just had confirmed that they're down to 40. So 42 is where pre-diabetes starts, and 48 is diabetic. So from November, really, from the beginning of November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. So in just under 8 months, I have managed to bring my blood sugar levels down from 65 to 40, a 25-point reduction in 8 months, roughly. So my throat itches, I don't know why. Anyway, as I've said before, you know, the question is, how do you do it? And I love the NHS. I really love the NHS, and I'm a supporter of it. But when it comes to diabetic advice, just don't follow it. Really don't follow it. Firstly, as I said before, this doesn't constitute medical advice, but nothing I say constitutes medical advice. I'm not a doctor, I'm a psychotherapist. But I have slashed my carbohydrate levels. That's what I've done. I've slashed the sugar levels and I've slashed the carbs. And when I do have carbs, they're in very small quantities, like porridge, like lentils, say, for example, like a tiny portion of brown whole grain rice, not white rice. Occasional pasta, a very small portion, like, 10 pieces of pasta maybe at the most. So slash the carbs, slash the sugar, and sugar is in almost everything. So, bottled beetroot has got extra sugar in. Why, when it's sweet? All the sauces have got a very high sugar. If you want sauce to go with something, make your own from fresh ingredients. All the processed foods, like, I loved, shall I say, macaroni cheese, but I'm not having it anymore. I now have cauliflower cheese. I used to love roast potatoes, but I don't have it anymore. I have nice cauliflower cheese with kale and spinach. I'm vegetarian. Drink for anti-inflammatory, for example, try water with cider vinegar. Cider vinegar is the only one that appears to work. Try lots of turmeric. Turmeric is really good. Try, I've forgotten what it's called now, cinnamon. Cinnamon, if you put cinnamon in apple instead of sugar, if you're stewing an apple, don't have don't have a baking apple, have an eating apple to stew it, and put loads of cinnamon in. Cinnamon helps you regulate your blood sugar levels, something that the NHS won't tell you officially. Although if you're lucky, the NHS person might just tell you, sort of hush hush, you could try some cinnamon in your food. Now, I've managed to do it. I'm down to 40. I'm hoping to get it down even further. 42 is where pre-diabetic starts, and I don't want to have any risk whatsoever of going back even into the pre-diabetic number range. So I'm going to keep on keeping on. I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing. And what exactly am I doing? It's very easy to say, well, this is what I'm not doing. I'm not having bread. I'm having hardly any pasta. Unless I really have to, I'm having tiny portions of rice with my extra big portions of vegetable and mixed bean curries. I'm having a wonderful aubergine tomato, mushroom, onion, and full fat cheese dish. I'm having full fat milk. I'm having loads of nuts, which are fantastic. There's all sorts of things as a vegetarian that you can have. I even did some homemade sugar-free ice cream, where I bought some cream, mixed it in with fruit, fresh fruit, and then froze it, and it was delicious. It was really delicious. So how does my diet compare to what the National Health Service eventually told me to do in March of this year, having taken 5 months to get me to see a dietitian? Well, the National Health Service told me to go low calorie, to count my calories. And I'd already learned by that time that calories were not the problem for type 2 diabetics. Calories are not the problem. Carbohydrates and sugar are the problem, not calories. And it's a lie to say that every calorie counts. Calories are really not that relevant. And so they told me to go low fat. And I am going, I'm not overeating on the fat, but I'm having full fat milk, full fat yogurt, full fat cheese, avocados. According to the research that I've looked at, fat, the only problem with fat is trans fats, which are manufactured man-made fats. Every other fat, whether it be saturated or unsaturated, is okay. It's not a problem. It doesn't clot up your arteries, as they claim. It doesn't give you heart attacks, as they claim. In fact, I am down from 17 stone to about 14.7, 14.6 now, based on this diet. So the NHS says low calorie. I say low carb. They say low fat. I say don't worry about the fats unless they're trans fats. The NHS was saying, they gave me some advice about switching my breakfast cereal to Weetabix. And it's like, well, Weetabix is going to turn into sugar really quickly because it's wheat. How can the NHS be so irresponsible as to tell me to do what is not in my best interests? And, you know, I did wonder whether the company, it was a private company delivering an NHS service. I'm wondering if they were just giving standardized advice or whether they were suggesting it because they had a deal with Weetabix. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not making that accusation, but I'm just wondering why they suggested it, because it was just wrong. It's totally wrong. But, so, you know, what do my meals look like? I'm also doing, before I go on to that, intermittent water-only fasting. And again, if you're on medications, you have to be really careful. You have to make sure it's not going to hurt you. If you're type 1 diabetic, then it's not to be advised. But if you're overweight, like me, if you're, certainly I'm still overweight, but I wasn't not as overweight as I was. But if you're overweight, if you're not on NHS medications, then intermittent water fasting should be absolutely okay. And what I do is, basically, I was on an intermittent water only fast. Today's Friday. I was on it yesterday. So, for example, I ate some food Wednesday evening at about 6 o'clock. I had nothing, my ear itches, I don't know why. I had nothing to eat. After then, I had myself drinks, but nothing to eat. On Thursday, I skipped breakfast and got on with my work. On Thursday, I skipped lunch and just got on with my work, allowing myself lots of herbal teas. So herbal tea, green tea, mint tea, fennel tea, water. I have a little bit of a swollen foot, so I'm not quite sure why. I'm going to need to check on the doctor for that. So I'm taking water, a pint of water with cider vinegar, a little bit of cider vinegar as part of this. I'm taking turmeric tablets to get the anti-inflammatories going. Occasional paracetamol, it's also an anti-inflammatory. So 24-hour water-only fasting, as long as you're not on meds, has been worked really well for me. My weight loss began to stall at 15 stone, or 16 stone it was. I then went on intermittent water-only fasting, and that got me down to 15 stone. Now I'm down to about 15.7, 15.6. So intermittent water-only fasting. Some of the myths about it is that hunger pangs are terrible. They're not. Once you get through the first bit of hunger pang, you don't really notice it. The second thing is that will it turn into will you become anorexic? Well, look at me, I'm definitely not anorexic, and the taste of the food when I do eat it is absolutely fantastic. It's brilliant. It's wonderful. The other question is, well, does it sort of go bad for your health? Does it? Well, actually, according to Dr. Fung, and I do recommend his videos, it's good for health. For example, if you can, if intermittent water fasting gives your pancreas a rest, that's something, for example, that my actual NHS doctor said to me. But she was a trainee, and therefore perhaps not given to standard NHS advice. But she said to me, no problem with you doing intermittent water-only fasting. She said that it gives your pancreas a rest. The pancreas doesn't have to produce so much insulin. It lowers your insulin levels. Lower insulin levels mean that you have a greater capacity for burning fat and also producing ketosis, where ketones, I believe, get to be produced by the body to replace the sugar for energy. When intermittent water-only fasting actually burns off some of the maladaptive proteins, apparently, according to Dr. Fung. And these maladaptive proteins can be associated with dementia and Alzheimer's. Intermittent water-only fasting allows you to burn off excess sugar levels in your body, so it helps guard against diabetes type problems, including with your feet, with your liver, with your kidneys. Intermittent water-only fasting has really been working for me. I've been trying to do at least twice a week, 24-hour intermittent fasting. And again, have a look at Dr. Fung. I've bought a book called The Complete Guide to Fasting by Dr. Fung, which gives you every conceivable angle on it and includes all the scientific evidence. My problem with the NHS is that they are fantastic for the diagnosis. I'm very, very grateful for the diagnosis. I'm not grateful, however, for the very flawed advice, which is out of date and not based on latest evidence. And what I really object to is that we are an evidence-based service, which is what the private company told me when I finally got to speak to them in March. It's used as a slogan, as an advertising and marketing tool. But the evidence base that they have is very, very poor. If it was good evidence base, it would be saying to me, slash those carbs and slash those sugars. That's what it should have been telling me, subject to me being on medications, of course, which if I am, it might be more difficult. But they didn't tell me that. They gave me the old-fashioned stuff of so many carbs, so much protein, so much fat, vegetables, etc. It wasn't all wrong, it wasn't all bad, but if you want to cure the diabetes, then get rid of the grains, get rid of the potatoes, get rid of the sugar, slash the carbs, and don't worry about the fat. As long as it's not trans fats, don't worry about don't worry about fats. That's what has done very, very well for me. That is what has reduced in a 25% or 25, not 25%, a 25-point reduction in my blood sugar levels in October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, in 8 months. So in 8 months, I've got rid of 25 points, which is 3 points, just over 3 points per month. 3.1 something or other per month. And I'm definitely not giving up. I'm going to continue with my diet. I'm going to continue to fight hard to get myself well. I'm wanting to increase my exercise. The other thing as well that I've noticed is that previously I've been on low fat, low calorie, and I've said this before, but my whole metabolism ground to a halt, and I felt incredibly ill. With this 8 months diet, although I get occasional crashes, or I get occasional things that are not feeling well, my ability to fight back, my immune system seems to be working a lot better because my ability to fight back is increased, which is fantastic. I've also been off the thyroid medication for a month, and I'm going to have a chat with them about this on Monday, and my energy levels have never been higher than on a low carb diet. And I'm doing more exercise, and I'm doing more exercise because I'm more highly energized, not because I'm trying to lose weight. Because the decreased weight through low carb leads to more energy, and more energy leads to more exercise. That's the way to do it. This is just not. And good luck with conquering type 2 diabetes.